we are going to discuss exercises related to the lesson conditional logic. In order to follow this set of exercises, you should have studied lesson 1 to lesson 3 along with the exercises. Now let's look at the problem number 1, part A. Start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So I have already opened Visual Studio IDE, and now we have to go to File, New, Project, then New Project window appears. Here you have to specify Visual Basic, and here we are going to work with Windows Forms application, and here you have to specify where we are going to save our project. Okay, so I have already created the folder VB. Okay, inside this one let's save our project, and the project name I give it project 1, and once we have pressed OK button, it takes time to generate the project. Okay, so you have to wait. Now you can see the empty form here. Okay, now our toolbox is here. Okay, Solution Explorer is here, and the properties window is here. Okay, so now let's look at the part B. Add the text box to the form and name it as txt_num. You have to add the text box. Then once you have selected the text box, okay, once you have selected the text box, then you can see the properties of the text box in the properties window. Its name property, let's change it to txt_num. Okay, and now you can save your work using this one. Add a button to the form and name it as btn check. Now we are going to add a button to the form, and once we have selected the button, then properties window shows the properties of the button. The name of the button btn check, and then press enter. Okay, now you can save the work. Again, let's look at the next part, part D. Change the text property of the button to check. Text property means what you see on the button. Okay, so if you look at the text property, if you change it to check, you can see that text on the button. Okay, program the button according to the steps given below. In order to program the button, that means what should happen when we click the button. Okay, so in order to do that, you have to double click on the button, and now cursor is blinking inside this line and this line. Okay, in between these two lines nothing is there. Okay, therefore if we click the button, now nothing is going to happen. Whatever the code we write here will be executed when we click the button. Okay, and let's look at the next part. The text even should be displayed in a message box if the integer entered in the text box is even. Otherwise the text odd should be displayed in a message box. Now this part says, okay, this part says the user is expected to enter an integer in the text box. Okay, so therefore we have to declare let's say our variable name is var as integer. Okay, then from the text box we have to read the name of our text box is txt num, and we access its text property, and here this part returns a text, and using the val method we have to convert it to the corresponding number. Okay, now we have to use conditional logic if var mod 2, that means this line, okay, this line, this expression, okay, this expression means the value of the variable, we divide it by 2 and this expression is going to return the remainder. Okay, that means if value of this variable is an even number, if we divide it by 2, remainder is going to be 0. Okay, if the value of the variable, this one, is an odd number, that means if we divide it by 2, then remainder is 1. Okay, so now 0 means here the value of the variable, if we divide it by 2, if the remainder is 0, that means the the value of the variable is an even number. In that case you have to display a message box even. Okay, even. Otherwise the text odd should be displayed in a message box. Okay, therefore we can use else message box odd. If it is if it is not an even number, definitely it must be an odd number. Okay, therefore we can simply use if else. Okay, now that is the answer for our problem number 1. Let's try to run this and see. If we enter 43, it is an odd number. If we enter this one, it is an even number. Likewise your application is going to work, and that is the end of the problem number 1. So I close the solution. Then let's look at the problem number 2. There, part A, start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So we have to go to here and start a new this one, and here you have to give the project name, project 2. Okay, and here you have to specify where you are going to store your project. We use the same VB folder. Okay, and now after pressing the OK button, the project will be generated. And now let's look at the part B. Add the text box to the form and name it as txt number. So we add the text box, so its name txt number, then press enter. Add a button to the form and name it as btn in range. So we can add a button and name btn in range. Okay. Change the text property of the button to is in range. Text property is in range. Is in range. Okay. Now program the button according to the steps given below. So you have to double click the button. The user is expected to enter a number in the text box. Number means so that the number can be a fractional number as well. Therefore, let's declare it as a double. The text yes should be displayed in a message box if the number is greater than or equal to 5 and less than 12. Okay. Otherwise, the text no should be displayed in a message box. Now here to this variable txt number dot text, okay, so here this returns the text in the text box. So in order to convert it to the corresponding number, you have to put VAL method, and now we use conditional logic. So here you have to include this part. That means if the number is greater than or equal to 5, greater than or equal, you have to write it in this way, greater than or equal to 5 and x less than 12 then. Okay, now here you can see our condition is this expression. Okay, now the condition consists of two parts and we have connected it using the AND operator, this part and this part. That means in order to return true, if this expression returns true, that means both these conditions, this one and this one, must be true. Then only the entire expression is going to be true. Okay. Now in this situation, you have to display in a message box dot show. Okay. You have to display yes, and if the number is not within this range, you can simply use else. Message box dot show, we can say no. Okay. Now that is the end of our problem number 2. Now let's run it and see. If you put this one, no. If you put yes, okay, likewise your application is going to work. Then I close this solution. Now let's look at problem number 3. As usual, we have to start a new project and here you have to specify Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, here this is our problem number 3. Therefore let's use the name project 3, and the folder in the desktop we are going to use the same folder. Okay, and once you have pressed the OK button, the project will be generated. Add the text box to the form and name it as txt number. So we have to add the text box, and its name we are going to change it to txt number. Okay, then next part, add the button to the form and name it as btn in range. Now we can add the button, and its name btn in range. Change the text property of the button to is in range. This one you can change it to is in range. Okay, now it says program the button according to the steps given below. You have to double click the button in order to program it, and next part says the user is expected to enter a number in the text box. Therefore let's declare a double, okay, then to the x, here txt number dot text. If the number is less than 3 or greater than 17, that means if the number is x less than 3 or x greater than 17, then in the message box you have to display yes, otherwise in the message box you have to display no. Okay, less than 3 or greater than 17. Now here we have used the O operator, and this is the expression, this is the condition, and this condition consists of two parts, this condition and this condition. Okay, so we have used O operator means if at least one of these this one and this one, okay, this condition and this condition, if at least one of these conditions are true, then only the expression returns true. Okay, in that case we have to display yes in the message box. Okay, now we run this. If you put 2, it says yes. If we put 10, it says no. Okay, in that way your application is going to work. And that is the end of our project number 3. Not yes, that means problem number 3. So I close the solution Now let's go to the problem number 4. As usual, you have to start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So we have to go to here, new project, and this one, project 4, Visual Basic Windows Forms application, and here you have to specify the location. Okay, the same location we are going to use. Okay, then once you have pressed the OK button, now you can see the empty form. Let's go to the next part. Add 4 text boxes with names txt x1, txt y1, txt x2, txt y2. Okay, now we have to add 4 text boxes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, okay, in that way you have to add 4 text boxes, and first one, select the first one and the name property txtx1. This one txty1. This one txtx2. This one txty2. Now we have to use labels x1, y1, x2, y2. We need 4 labels. Now this one here, label 1 is our its text property. You have to change x1, text property x2, no, not x2, y1, here x2, y2. Okay, and here you can put this one, here you can put this one, here you can put this and this. Okay, so the 4 text boxes represent coordinates of 2 points x1 comma y1 and x2 comma y2. Okay, so we are going to represent coordinates of 2 points using these 4 text boxes. Add the button to the form and name it as btn coincident. So you have to add a button btn coincident. Okay, now change the text property of the button to is coincident. Now here you have to go to the text property of the button, is coincident, is coincident. Okay, now it is like this. Now program the button according to the steps given below. Double click on the button and the text yes should be displayed in a message box if the 2 points are coincident. Otherwise, the text no should be displayed in a message box. So first declare dim x1 comma y1 comma x2 comma y2 as double x1. We are going to take the value txt x1 dot text y1 txt y1 dot text. Okay, then x2 txt x2 dot text y2 txt y2 dot text. And now we have to use conditional logic. We use x1 x2 and y1 y2. Okay, in this case in a message box you have to display yes if the 2 points are not coincident. In this case you have to put it in no, you have to put no. Then this is the condition and it consists of two parts. X coordinates are equal and y coordinates are equal. That means if both x coordinates are equal and y coordinates are equal, in that situation the expression is true. Therefore you have to display yes in a message box. Okay, now let's run and see. 20 y1, okay, then 23.8, 85.645. If you click this yes, you click this, if you click this no. Okay, in that way your application is going to work. And that is the end of uh, question number 4. So I close the solution and we are going to discuss problem number 5. Okay, so in order to do that you have to start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So you have to go to file, new project, here Visual Basic, here Windows Forms application, and this is our project number 5. Okay, so let's name it as project 5 and we are going to save it in the same place we have saved the other projects. Okay, then once you have pressed the OK button you can see an empty form. Now in this problem also you have to add 4 text boxes and label them as x1 y1 x2 y2, same thing as we have done in the previous question. Okay, so I have to include 4 text boxes. This one, its name tx1, txty1, txtx2, txty2. Okay, now we have named our text boxes. Then you have to include for labels. This one, its text property, you change it to x1. This one, its text property, y1. Text property of this one, x2. Text property of this one, y2. And now the four text boxes represent coordinates of 2 points, x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, so add a button to the form and name it as btn distinct. Add a button and its name btn distinct. Okay, then its text property you have to change is distinct. Okay, now we have changed the text property. Then program the button according to the steps given below. The text here should be displayed in a message box if the 2 points are distinct. Otherwise, the text no should be displayed in a message box. In order to program the button, we have to double click the button, and now we need 4 variables. txty2.text. Okay, now you can see here if the 2 points are distinct, that means x1 not equal to, this is how in Visual Basic we represent the not equal symbol, not equal operator. Okay, if x1 not equal to x2 or y1 not equal to y2, in this situation the 2 points are distinct. Okay, that means x coordinates are not equal, y coordinates are not equal. Oh, we have connected it using O operator. That means if at least one of these conditions are true, then the ex the expression returns true. That means if the 2 points are distinct, then this expression is going to return true. Okay, so in a message box you have to display yes, otherwise in a message box you are going to display now you have to run this. It says no because these 2 points are coincident. Okay, now if you change this to something else, it says yes. That means these 2 points are distinct. Okay, that is the answer for our question number 5. Now let's close the solution, and then we are going to discuss problem number 6. There start a new Visual Basic Windows Forms application project. So you have to go to File, New Project, Visual Basic Windows Forms application, then project number 6, and if you browse this we have to select, okay, let's select the same folder, project 6, add a text box to the form with name txt marks and label it as marks. So you have to add the text box and here you have to put txt marks and put a label marks. Okay, then add the button to the form and name it as btn grade. We have to add the button, change the name as btn grade, program the button according to the steps given below. Okay, so the problem do not says to put a suitable name, but let's say here you have to, it's better you use grade. Okay, that means in this application what we are going to do is marks of a student is entered in this text box. Once you press the grade button, the corresponding grade will be displayed. Okay, that's what we are going to do here. The user is expected to enter a number from 0 to 100 in the text box. Okay, so we are going to program the button. Okay, and dim marks as double. Okay, we use double, let's use double marks to this one txt marks dot text, and now number in the text box is our marks, and the grade is calculated based on the marks according to the table given below. In this table, now let's try to do it as exactly in the table. Okay, so in order to do that, we have to use conditional logic. Here, if marks greater than or equal to 80 and marks less than 100. Okay, in that case, in the message box, grade A should be displayed. Okay, and else if, because once the grade is A, you do not have to worry about the other parts. Okay, therefore we use else if marks greater than or equal to 60 and marks less than 80. In that case, in the message box, show B. Else if marks greater than or equal to 40 and marks less than 60, in that case message box show C. Else if marks greater than or equal to 20 and marks less than 40, in this situation, in a message box you have to display D. Else if marks greater than or equal to 0 and marks less than 20, then in a message box E. Okay, in this way you can do, but you can simplify this. Nothing wrong with this code segment, because we check whether marks greater than or equal to 80 and marks less than 100. Okay, in that case we display grade A. Okay, if let's say if marks is equal to 90, in that situation A will be displayed. Since these are else parts, those parts will not be executed, but the code is redundant. That means you always know that if the user is going to enter marks in between 0 and 100, okay, therefore this condition is optional. No, this condition is optional. Here you can simply write, if marks greater than or equal to 80, you have to display A. Else means, now since we are going to use else, that means definitely if marks is greater than 80, this line will be executed and these lines will be ignored. Okay, if marks is not greater than to 80, in that situation it comes here. Okay, Therefore, you do not have to include this condition. It's unnecessary, because program comes to this line only when marks less than 80. Okay. Therefore, this part is optional. Okay. And now we know, once we have come to here, if marks less than 80, it comes here. Okay. And if marks less than 60, it comes here. Therefore, this part is unnecessary. Okay. You can remove that part. In the same way, you can remove this part, this part, and likewise. And also, now you can see here, if marks greater than or equal to 20, else means marks less than to 20. Okay. Therefore, and we know that marks is between 0 and 100. Therefore, you do not have to put a condition here. You can simply say else. Okay. Else, in that way you can simplify your code. Okay, now let's see. Um, $25 D, 77 B. Okay, now let's see. With this one, 25 means D, 77 means B. Okay, that's okay. The other thing we can do, rather than writing this message box, you can simply declare a string variable. Usually it's recommended, once you declare string variables, always initialize them to an empty string. Okay, the reason you can understand if you learn programming further, but for the time being, keep this in your mind. When you declare a string, always initialize it to an empty string. And in this situation, you can simply say S, we assign A here, to S we assign B here, to S we assign C, we assign D, we assign E. Okay, now after that, in a message box we can display S. Okay, let's say if you need, we can put grade, put a space, and here you can use ampersand sign to concatenate. Okay, now let's see. If you put 53, grade is C. 53 means grade is C. Okay, and that is the end of our question number 6. Okay, and that is the end of the exercises related to conditional logic. Okay, so I close this solution. and thank you for listening.